These are most likely the most popular roaches in breeders' hobby, right after Madagascar hissers. Unlike their Madagascar cousin, they do not grow as large, only up to 4 or 5 at max centimeters. Their popularity and drab, brown coloration makes them rather boring at the first glance, but if you look closely, both nymphs and adults have their own charm. Nymphs tend to be speckled, almost like little marbles, while adults display beautiful vibrant brown coloration with yellowish stripes in females and mighty grayish wings in males. These wings do not serve them for active flight, but they can and would use them for gliding, if they must fall or jump off a higher ground. Cute thing is that they also play dead, when startled and having nowhere to hide, much like possums. They breed readily and are pretty cheap and ready to buy, so what's not to like about them?
This large roach bears the common name of death-head roach, and looking at their wonderful pattern on the bodies of adult roaches, it's not hard to figure out why. The skull-like patch on top of their body, in addition to pale coloration of their long, leathery wing coverts, gives them an appearance of a fancy, reversed Grim Reaper. This pattern is present in both males and females, although males are leaner, smaller, and have longer wings. They are burrowing species, from the nymphs, caramel brown with marble spotting, to wonderfully colored imago. All stages much prefer to stay hidden in the ground, or under whatever cork bark, leaves or decorations you give them to hide under. It's hard to miss that they are pretty large as well, adding to their impressive appearance.
These are one of the less flashy and smaller roaches out there, reaching only 1 to 1.5 centimeters in body length, with bigger females reaching up to 2 centimeters. They need humidity, as all roaches, but are relatively good in withstanding dryness, making them more manageable if you tend to be out for long periods of time. Adults don't live very long, but they compensate with quick maturity, good fertility, quite a big litter for a roach, and, as mentioned before, ease of care. The females are larger than males, with larger, broader wings and less protruding final abdominal segment, while males are smaller, but possess hook-like structures on their abdomens. Nymphs are really tiny and can squeeze through the smallest hole, so if you plan to keep them, cover the ventilation holes with an air-permeable material, like bandage gauze with smallest holes possible. Additionally, they are expert climbers, so if you don't want your pets to escape, and you don't, since they won't survive long in apartment setting, you'd like to secure the lid and preferably smear the edges with petrolatum or similar substance, to prevent escapes during feeding and cleaning. I don't know, they may seem boring or ugly to you, I just like the way their cute red head creates a contrast with almost black body.
If you've watched my first video about beautiful roaches, you surely remember the Ergala capucina species, which was actually the second species of ornamental roaches I have purchased to keep as pets, with first one's Big Oxyhaloa dusta. This one is the genus relative of the former and it looks very similar, with the most difference being seen with males, which have thin spotting of lighter color on their back, instead of a thick line of capucina. Like with their fellow species, they are relatively slow-moving and females and young do not climb smooth vertical walls. Males are a bit more agile, though. The nymphs tend to stay hidden underneath the substrate, but adults, especially males, like to show off. They are oviparous and lay their ootecas in random places underneath the substrate. They need over 50% humidity, and quite a lot of substrate, but aside that, the care is really easy.
This fancy roach species is one of the largest in the hobby, in my opinion much more pretty than its Madagascar cousin. They can hiss, by flowing the air through breathing tubes at the sides of their bodies. They are, though much more colorful and vibrant than Madagascarian cousins and also a bit smaller and leaner, reaching only about 4 to 5 centimeters in length for males and 3 to 5 centimeters in females. Still, these roaches are large and large roaches need large enclosures, the more of them, the bigger the enclosure should be. Keep that in mind if you want to keep them.
Their vibrant, flashy coloration changes along their lifespan, from drab gray, to onyx black, to finally take on the wonderful orange red black and yellow striped appearance of adults. They have very short, reduced wings and cannot fly. Interesting among other roaches, the females of this species tend to be smaller than males. This is because males of these species tend to fight off the rivaling males during breeding season and while protecting their territory.
These roaches are one of the largest in the world, as well as one of the heaviest. Despite their size and weight, they can fly a bit from perch to perch or from perch to a ground. Their upper dark patch and lower marbling-like pattern easily catch an eye even of those who normally would feel grossed out by a roach. Adult females can reach as much as 8 centimeters in length, while males are slightly smaller. Masking in the leaf litter coloration changes drastically when we look underneath the roach, where they exhibit beautiful, contrasting, black and yellow markings. Males exhibit wonderful courtship display, upon which they rise and flutter their impressive wings to attract and persuade a female for a copulation. Even if a female appeared receptive at first, she may refuse mating. So getting laid can be hard even for male roach. This species exhibits some level of intraspecies dimorphism, with some being lighter, some darker, some bearing more or less young, and some just shorter or longer periods from larvae to a nymph, and finally, to adult.
Pretty interestingly looking roaches and pretty large as well, with adults measuring up to 4 centimeters and 5 millimeters in length. Their intricate ink-like patterns of dark color on otherwise pale peach-like orange bodies are not only eye-catching, but also unique to every individual roach. You won't find two roaches with exact same black patch pattern. Their large wings, especially long in males, do not allow them to set off the ground like Panchloronnivia did, but they can freely glide from perch to the ground. Their mating rituals are incredibly interesting, with males surrounding the females and flap their wings to attract her attention. Otherwise though, they like to be buried most of the time unless looking for food or mate.
If you've watched my first roach ranking video, you may remember the genus name, and indeed, this one is another of the kind presented in my previous video, much more popular in pet trade and in my personal opinion even more pretty. They prefer drier climate, so the substrate should be only a bit damp. The most optimal option would be to one side of the enclosure on dry side and one a bit more damp. The larvae and nymphs tend to forage in the litter, much like millipedes, so it's vital to give them some forest litter or dry, rotten leaves in between the substrate for the larvae to munch on. A good ventilation is recommended, cause too much humidity can actually make them sick and die, while too little is not enough for their babies to develop in the litter properly and the colony may die out. So balance is important. They don't grow large, but also don't stay too small, with average specimen measuring around 2 to 5 centimeters long, with females growing bigger.
Do not regulate your screen. This fancy Japanese roach trulli is opalescent blue. With its oval, beetle-like body, beautiful color and small size, only around 1 centimeter long, it almost looks like a rare type of ladybud, but it's long, white-tinted in males. Antennas betray their roach genetics. With their immense beauty, it's not hard to imagine that they are pretty expensive too, and just here in Poland, for only 10 units of these lovely living jewels, you can pay from 90 to 100 zloty, around $23 to $27. Quite a lot for a roach, but their rarity, both in nature and in market, as well as intricate appearance, explains the costs all too well. Their behavior, ecology, and biology is not all that well known because, as I said before, despite their striking beauty, they are hard to find even in nature. Therefore, little is really known about their life cycle, reproduction, and habitat, and all that we know we can only determine from what living conditions they thrive in captivity. Many people who keep them just like any other roach species, with a bit more substrate since, like E. capucina, these two love to dig in. Their nymphs are brown and gain their adult coloration only later in life. They lay their eggs in the ground. Like most roaches, they prefer to stay to the ground rather than climb, and they like to munch on dead wood, like isopods. And that's pretty much all that we know of them.
If you think the latter installment was pretty, take a look at this one. No surprise they are so rare in captivity, cause finding them in the wild is even harder. These colorful beauties like to burrow, which is understandable, given how eye-catching and ornamental they are. Sadly, as pretty much all good things in life, they too don't last forever, as their adult forms only live couple of months. It's unknown how readily they procreate and how much of a litter they produce, mostly due to their secretive nature. But keeping them as any other burrowing roach doesn't seem that far-fetched.